So this whole achila business, yeah. All the point of it all is, in contrast to Lasid Lavai, where there'll be gufim, as the Ramban says, and Chassidus passing like the Ramban, but no achila. And similarly, a taste of that is Shvi Shal Pesach. So we're a little bit thrown by the Nen Miziv Ashchina. That's not achila. So let's go back to the beginning and just make the definitions clear, and then all gobbling will fall into place. I think it's at 4 o'clock in the morning when it clicked. Not that I was up till then, but just maybe she should be disturbed by nothing else about pshat in the Maimer. And then in a foggy state, I realized the pshat. So number one, achila and hana are not the same thing. We were equating the two, if we were confused. So let's just spell it out here. Chachma reim is chachma and bina. Because there's the language, yonik, the language that's loosely is all the same, but in this case, it's not. So, chachma bina, and then the doidim are, help me, the doidim are za and malchus. So there's food and drink. What that means is, mamish, an experience of a likus, through the tzimtzum that's tailored to the keli, mamish bakbola, limited, a limit like food you ingest becomes part of the body, completely internalized that way. So that's achila. So in a word, it's a defined, limited revelation of godliness that is absorbed by defined entities. Chachma, lofty as they are. Chachma, bina, zah, malchus. Within that, the distinction between food and drink, the distinction he made was that when we say achila baruchnius, so that is a higher form of ingestion, higher kalim, because why? Why is drink lower? Why is the metaphor or the physical properties of liquid the way they are? Because it flows down. There's this downward component. So that indicates and conveys a lower revelation, even greater limitation. That's Zon Malchus, metaphorically a drinking. Chacham Binra eating. What's common to both is also thrown yonik from this muzzle, that muzzle, but yonik, muzzle, the mazolis he refers to also was a bit, the mazolis are the gimel midas harachmim. They attack a hide in ishtamshalos. But Chachma and Bina and Zomalchus are yonik. Yonik, nourish means it comes to tremendous tzimtzum and it's internalized. That's achilu shtir. But then there's also hana. And hana, I thought of a simple, there is a begashmi is a possible illustration of that, and that is aroma. Aroma, in fact, is a very deep hana. Person faints, food and drink won't help. To bring him to life again is aroma. Dafka could it's makif, but that is a hana. So not to be confused with achilu sh'siyah.
Where does hana come in the picture?
Because, okay, I'll tell you right now. So we established this. So number one, there's going to be three matzavim, 3 states. The second state is really one, but in two division, in division, in two, that's what I'm looking for, in 2 dimensions or 2 levels. Again, so from the bottom, the first thing is there's achila and there's sh'siyah, food and drink, baruchnius, ichlureim, shikru doidim. What that means is a level of a likus to one degree or another that comes and is internalized by recipients, lofty recipients, kelim, chachma, bina, bottle to likus, but still otherness recipients. And they're internalizing godliness, symbolized by food and drink. It's really wrong to say food and symbolize, because when you say symbolic, just as a caveat here in parentheses, should be clear. But when you use the word in the world symbolic, that's got nothing to do with this. It's a symbol. In Torah, it's no symbolism. Food and drink devolves from and is a reflection of these inyanim ruchniim. So it's not a symbol. It's a reflection, but gashmi is lamata of the way things are l'mayla. We often use the word symbol, but it shouldn't be used because it's giving us the wrong impression. It's nishtalshel. Things devolve. Everything lamata. So if we say something lamata is a metaphor or reflects something lamayla, it means it comes from there. Its properties that it has lamata, a reflection of these divine forces. Clear? Sorry. So that's achila. Now, this is all to explain that lo sid lavai, there's no food. And likewise, Shvisha Pesach, which is a reflection of the atik, this essential level of alikus. This is the key here. Maimon doesn't spell it out, but we'll see. There is no food. But there is hanor. That's the point. There is hanor, but not in a way of food. Now, again, the analogy might be aroma. Aroma is not taken in like food and assimilated within the body, but it's a tremendous benefit. On the contrary, as I said before, the person faints, food and drink won't help him, but strong smelling salts, aroma will. So it's a very deep hanor, but it's not assimilated like food and drink. So, losid lovai, we make this distinction between wrong. I made a distinction when I said that Torah, Yoshvin, Tzadikim Yoshvin, what's the Lashon?
Itresein Bereshayim.
Itresein V'Atoresein Bereshayim. V'nenim is Vashchinu Machalak Atoresein Bereshayim. It's not Machalak in the Bible, so it was a mistake to do that. It's one Inyan, which means that Lasid Lavai, there is a Hana, an experience of godliness in a very deep way, but not in a way that is defined it by the keli as food and drink is, that takes the food and assimilates it and becomes part of the brain and part of the heart and part of all the limbs, as does drink as well. Clear? Food and drink. Now, within this hana, there's a subdivision. There's the way it is, this hana ruchni. There's okay, so food and drink, one madrege, and then there's a madrege. There's an ein bayachil or siyah. It's not food and drink. It's a no of godliness at a much more essential level that is not defined by the recipient. Clear? The in-between level, and that's losid love. And that is a taste of which is Shvisha Pesach. But through us a little bit, and now to make it clear, there's an in-between level, and that is the korban shlomim al derech, the korban shlomim of Yontif, where the guf and nefesh bahamis are eating, but not really mamish. It's not regular food. There's a hana here, but it's not the classic achila mamish, because the fat and the blood is offered to the mizbeach and it's holy meat, etc. So that's a quasi. It's in between the beyond achila shtia and actual achila shtia. It's al derech. Clear? Then Shvisha Pesach is a taste of losid lavai. We're completely beyond achilur siyah, and yet hanoah neni miziv hashchina. Now, I don't know if they say it later in the Maimon or not. Really, what the underlying problem here is that not that we had before, that now that needs to be addressed. How do you have hanoah from something that's totally beyond? So aroma gives us is an illustration. Aroma is makiv, reach is makiv, ktoides, the Avedis are ktoides. And yet it has a profound effect on the person, but it's more so than food and drink. So it's a very useful illustration. So Bagashim we have an illustration of hana, but not assimilated by the organs and the limbs like food and drink is. The explanation is, why does aroma revive the person? Etc. Because this is in of atik, just in a word, because it's an essential. It's like a homeopathy. It doesn't be homeopathy. Homeopathy is not your classic food and drink. You take, you ever took it? It's tiny pellets. On the contrary, the more difficult, whatever you're facing, the smaller. So it goes into the etzem. That's the whole theory of it. So is it nourishing? It's mamish nourishing, but you're not getting fat and putting on weight like food and drink. But it's an essential chayes. It's much deeper. No? That's just to make clear. If it's beyond the keli, so the keli is not benefiting from it, it's makim, it's beyond my world, what connection do I have to it? I can't assimilate it within me, so what connection? Adarabah. It goes into you on a deeper level, an essential level. Not going to be manifest in putting on weight, which means Baruchnius, a new insight, a new seichel, a midah expressed in a new object of love. No new experience, nothing's added. It's invigorating the essence. Again, homeopathy, that's the whole point of it, is to treat, to get down to the essence of the body and treat it there. So is it now, it's nanin. It's a tremendous hana, but not the kind of hana. It's like almost ruchnis. Homeopathy is almost spiritual. In fact, it's poo-pooed completely by the scientific communities, unless maybe now they don't, but they did in the past. Nonsense. It's diluted. It doesn't even have any nutritional, as far as science is concerned, the vitamin value. Garnished. The whole theory is it's deeper than that's the essence. Touches the essence of the guf. That's atik. Batik Italia milza kriyas yamsov matitza kelai. By the way, I looked up the Zohar. I can't find it there. Looked, couldn't find it. Anyway, what's being revealed now by kriyas yamsov atik, and atik is an essential level. So it is is it a hana, the deepest hana, but not the hana of what? Seichel, of midas, of food and drink that is measured. You begin bigger and expand as a result. On the contrary, it invigorates everything at a very essential level. Be clear? Yeah? Yes or not?
Yeah.
You're smiling?
No.
Because you're having hana. No, you're smiling because what?
It's coming back to the first part about the atik bringing down atik into the food.
Previous mind.
Yeah, but bringing down the atik into the action.
That's the atik.
Yeah, the whole inyan was to be mamshav, that undefined chesed, like that essential thing in the davar gashmi that's now.
In the davar gashmi. That's a good, maybe even a greater chiddush. That here is being nourished by seichel and midas, etc. But to put it in this language, never to lose, his tefillah is never to lose, that the whole maila of the seichel and the midas, and because it's you. Because it's you. As we said in the Moishe, we translated this in marriage. What is hana of the supper? He's enjoying the supper. It's his favorite dish. But what's his real hana? That you made it. Somebody else made it and made it even better. It doesn't have that hana. The taste buds will salivate, but the hana, the real hana, atzmi, because you made it. That's the nukudi. And therefore, it's no matter what you make, I have that hana. Bemis. So it's not the external properties that would lose weight, gain weight, that are measurable. No matter what the food is. You made it, that's the nukud. How much? A small amount, a big amount, whatever it is. That's etzem bilti mishtana, the nukud. You made it, that's the point. You following this? Huh? Okay, so to summarize what we're saying. That Tzeischo, so this is all to answer the question why there's no obligation. There's no obligation in Tzeischo Pesach to bring a korban to provide meat for your Yom Tov meal. You have to have meat, but no obligation to bring the korban. Then you can eat that from the meat that you bought yesterday. All to say that in Tzeischo Pesach somehow we transcend food and drink. That's the whole explanation, the whole fact. Why? It's a foretaste of what? Of Lasid Lavoi, a revelation of h'tשכ. And now we're getting the hasbara. Food and drink means an experience of the divine. Let's put new words to this. Food and drink is an experience of the divine that is defined by my experience. Again, using the example of the dinner. So you say thank you to your wife. You're saying thank you. Level one is you're thanking because you enjoyed the meal. Or thank you because you made it. Different world. What's the thank you here? What's the excitement? Enjoyed the meal or that she made the meal? That's the difference. Chochman bin Malchus as a likus tailored to their level. So what's the enjoyment? The enjoyment is the meal. Meal ruchni, chochma, bin the intellect, emotions. I understand you, I feel you. Yiddishkeit is geschmack and beautiful. What's the hana? As we're learning it here, the name is Lasid Lavoi. And Tzeischo Pesach is a taste of. What's the benefit? You. But you made it. So that's not defined by my appreciation, that my taste buds, my understanding. It's you. Is that clear? And we have that kind of deep, essential connection on Tzeischo Pesach, that a maidservant saw, that which Yechezkel ben Buzi, the greatest Navi, didn't see. Because how could that be? How could that possibly be? When this is a nice thing, but what does it mean? It means Yechezkel ben Buzi, the Navi, he is experiencing godliness and expressing it in his language. That's internalized experience. That's how it should be. God's talking, he's getting the message, and he's expressing it in his words and beautiful prophecies and imagery. His imagery, description of Yechezkel ben Buzi's, he's actually talking, but the Medrash means what he saw when the heavens opened up that he described. The Srafim, they found in the Merkava. What did she see? She can give you no words that she saw. Afterwards, interviewed Fox News. Now, what did you see by Rebel News? Better. What did you see? They get the real story. What did you see by Kriyas Yamsuf? She's not going to tell you a word. She's going to go, him. Oh, maybe she'll say, point with the finger. Eibishter. The greatest hana possible, but not a hana that is assimilated and defined by my experience of it. Clear? You. All right, let's go further. So now we asked, and they say, beginning of Vayisei, what was the question here? Did we start answering it? We didn't. Okay, tell me the question of the first paragraph of Vayisei. While I gulp some coffee. Spell it out in simple English. What's the question here?
When the water itself turns to dry land.
What does it mean that the water turns to dry land? What should it have been? Like that's a pasuk in Tehillim. We have the question of the pasuk in Tehillim, not in the way it's described in Chumash. In Chumash it says.
I don't know if that was a lesson, but they went
In the Vayiboka the water split and they walked in between, finished. On dry land. The water didn't become dry. So he said, yeah. We give answer Pashat in Pshat in Nigla. How? The water became like a wall and the great depth congealed. So there's a solidity as opposed to fluidity that happened to the water. This is all Alter Rebbe's Maimon. Now, Mamshech Levaya, second paragraph, I say, yeah, ha'ili shebezeh baruchni. So what does all this mean, baruchni? What's the ili? What's the virtue? What's the greatness here that happens? What's going on? That the sea becomes solid. What does this mean, baruchni? Behektem bia, first you have to preface and explain, inyan yom vayabosha l'mayla. What do these things mean above, sea and dry land? And again, as we said moments ago, the physical sea and the physical dry land here behaves the way it does in every single property. It's all a reflection of the source above. So what is a sea and dry land? Shehem, in the broadest brush strokes, mashpia makabel, giver and receiver. Who's who? Obviously. Well, if you have to pick, who's the giver and who's the receiver? Yeah, the dry land receives in the water. Like the physical dry land, that gets the flow from the ocean. Like the pasuk says, the pasuk in Kehelis, it's a famous quote, all rivers flow to the sea. And yet the sea is never full. The fish, why is it that the sea doesn't become full? No, he's being masbir. I think it's based on Rashi there. He tells us, Pirish Rashi. Elhem, like to see it. Elhem shavim laleches, they return to go, shechayzim v'noivim. They keep on flowing from the sea. The sea is the mashpia. So the sea keeps on giving water. V'hainu, let's see, kedei lahashkish sa'aretz, in order to water the earth, shetoitzit simcha, smocha, beperes, a voice that the earth should produce its growth with fruit and grain. So it comes from where? The ashpah comes from the rivers that go into the ocean, and the ocean, then, like it's going to say rain in a moment. That's a separate thing. But aside from the rain, the ocean itself provides the water for growth, maybe through the rivers again.
In the Gospels, that's what happens.
Meaning?
That's the rivers are flowing through the forest and this.
Yeah, the rivers, but they go into the ocean. He wants to say that the ocean is the mashpia. So there's a flow out of the ocean. We encountered this before. In the memorim of Pashas Bolak, Bilam, Veshad and Acholim. At any rate, so it seems that the ocean nourishes, it gives through the rivers, I would imagine, on the subterranean channels, they're all connected, gives nourishment to the earth. Moreover, the Gam HaNonim, and also the clouds, Shmamtirim Mota, that bring down rain, Vehirvas Oretz, and soak the earth, Velidavit Smicha, that's a pasuk in Yeshaya, that the rain comes down and soaks the earth, and it gives birth, and it gives sprouts. And Higam Hey Mekabli Memei Ukainus. So they too, it's machlekes in the Gemara where the rain comes from. So one opinion is it comes from the clouds, come from the ocean. Like one opinion in Gemara Tainis, the Ovim, that the clouds Memei Ukainus Shoisim, they drink from the water of the Ukainus, the great ocean, it's the Mediterranean. Symbolic of all oceans. And according to all opinions, the waters of the great deep, they permeate and they give water, they give water to the earth. all to say that water is the mashpia, water/ocean, river, subterranean channels, rain, it's all one organic entity. That's the mashpia, and the earth is the makabel, and as a result of the ashpah, the earth gives birth. Male, female. Yeah. The earth is feminine. Even the world calls the earth Mother Earth. So like we see down here, that the water is the mashpia and the earth is the receiver, so to above, that the Milo, the source, is mashpia makabel. Now, that's so far was the Alter Rebbe. Now the Rebbe is going to add something. Let's see. We're clear? We're good? Yeah. Generally, mashpia makabel. Or to explain in the end how the mashpia becomes like a makabel. Where's he going with this? What happened at Kriyas Yamsuf, the water becomes solidified. The mashpia becomes a makabel. What does this mean? That's where he's going here. That's the hafech yom le'ebosh. So let's see. Let's have a look. So before getting back to the Alter Rebbe, the Rebbe adds in parenthesis, he says, interesting. The Rebbe is going to explain this in Avodah, the dry land and the sea. The Mittler Rebbe explains, what's the difference between the ocean and the sea? Now, both of them generally mean part of the world. They're both malchus. Now, what's malchus? So malchus, in the big picture, malchus is the recipient, the feminine. In the big picture, they're both feminine. But proteus, in analogy, within the feminine, the masculine of the feminine, and the feminine of the feminine. They're both part of the world. This world is the final recipient of all of the energies above it. It's the final product of God's malchus. What's governance? Malchus, simply governance, is a kingdom that the king, that the recipients of the king's beneficence. Okay, we'll let you say it. I think it's all right. Yeah, so the sea and the dry land overall are part of this world. We're saying, but proteus, there's a difference. Let's see the words in Kabbalah. Let's just define that. Oir chayzer, reflective light of Malchus. Okay, so there's Oir Yoshan, Oir chayzer, straight light, reflective light. Simple language. Straight light means the mashpia is giving. Reflective light means there's a recipient, and the recipient has received it and has been affected by it and is therefore illuminating. As a result, it's reflective light, as a result of having received from the mashpia. Above to below, below to above. Malchus is the consummate recipient, the feminine within the divine, within humanity, within nature. It is the world. So, Oir Chayzer de Malchus means Malchus as a receiver, and the consequence of that, having received, being illuminated, coming to life. Oir Chayzer expressing itself. The recipient expressing itself after having absorbed the ashpah that came from the mashpia. Yeah, that's simple language. Now, what does this mean now? There's two kinds of responses. There's the response symbolized by the earth, and the response, again, we use the word symbolize, expressed by the ocean. Elo shiyom, it's Kabbalah language. Let's just say it and try and understand it. The Maimon actually will explain it for us, I see. Elo shiyom hu mimalchos di gulim. The ocean, which is round, basically, right? It's a container of water. So it's malchus of the circle. Explain what that means in a second. Vayabasha, the dry land, Mimalchus the Yoshe. Is Malchus responding in a direct way? What does that mean? So the recipient is responding with a longing to the mashpia. But there's two kinds of longing. A longing that is like symbolized or expressed by the ocean, that is cyclical, has no beginning or end. And then there's a longing that is like on dry land, that dry land is linear. Land, there's land mass, all different shapes, etc. It's not limited to contain. An ocean literally is an ocean, is a keli, literally. The land sinks. It's a big vessel that contains the water. The dry land is not a container, which means that it has to have parameters. You go around and around and around the dry land, travel, one point to the other, straight. Okay, it's even on a simple level. Ocean just invokes the imagery of, again, a great body of water, container of water, igulim. We could say also that if you throw something, just occurs to me, this is why it is. When you throw something into water, what happens? Throw a pebble into water, what do you see? It creates concentric circles. Circles, 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 circles. Dry land doesn't have this property of the circle. I'm sure there's more scientifically in quantum physics, I'm sure. But big, simple observation. Water, the shape, if we look for a shape of water, it's a circle. Disturb it, drop something into the water, it will create circles. Not so dry land. You drop something in, it creates a furrow, that's it. So what does this mean? So again, Malchus. So
how
Malchus
about a wave?
Pardon?
How about a wave? A wave creates a circle.
Wave is a circle? Okay.
No, I'm saying a wave isn't a circle.
It is.
Yeah, it goes up, it crashes down.
Crashes down, it's a circle. Watch the surface.
A boat goes into the water and creates a lot of waves.
Huh?
Anyway, okay. Anyway, a boat goes into the water and it doesn't, lav dafka create circles. It creates movement. Go.
Because the boat is moving, whatever. Just the fact that I told you is a fact. There's nothing in nature that will produce it like that. There are other things. You disturb the water in different ways, you'll get different patterns.
Perfectly flat surface, and you pour water, it'll go out in a circle.
If you pour what?
Pour water on a perfectly flat surface, it'll flow out in a circle as well.
Yeah, if you pour water on even on dry land, if it's completely flat,
and
smooth, it'll form a perfect circle, unless it's dense, etc. So, okay, let's just say, so what does this mean, Baruchnius? There's two kinds of longing. Again, Malchus is the recipient. The Jew, the Neshama. And the Neshama receives Hashpah, God provides. Pashat, you get blessings and Hashpah, Gashmi and Ruchni. And so there's a desire to connect. But there's two kinds of desire. Two kinds of responses. One symbolized by the ocean, eagle, circle, and the other by dry land, not a circle, but a word would be what? As opposed to a circle, what? Linear. Really? Let's just see in the words of the Maimid. It's very beautiful, friend. In the Yesh, it's getting late. There's a kind of longing that a Yid has. My soul thirsts for you. In a land that is desolate and thirsty without water. So in holiness, we learned a different tzeischo. I want to behold you in holiness. And what's this? The Jew wants to grasp and see the countenance of the king. It's an unrequited love. He'll never be able to get there because of his distance, but he pines and longs. So this is the neshama's pining and longing for godliness that the neshama, as it's tethered to the body, will never attain. That's one kind of longing. It's unrequited.
This is symbol like
That's the
the
igulim.
water.
There's no end, yeah. So cyclical. Kedisa bezoya, like it says in Zohar, we'll include here, the Gaman, the Michsef, the Stakola, also the one who desires to gaze upon the king and cannot arrive there to attach himself. Im kol ze shvacha isla, he's still praised. That's a wonderful virtue, to desire, to want to be connected, even though you know you can't get there. The Yosef B'chinas Shukal upon him, the longing is there. That's represented by the longing, the reflective light of Igulim, of the circle. It never arrives at the destination, like the circle is no beginning and end. Yam, it's the ocean. Could be referring here again to the evaporation of the water that seeks to go above and be absorbed within the source. But it'll never reach that objective to become one and absorbed within Hashem. A longing, we're tethered to the body, lamata, but there's the longing, samal chanavshi. Then we'll continue. Then there's the rotzui of what? Of the dry land. And here the chiddush is, gewald, that the ocean becomes like dry land. See where it's going with that. Very beautiful. Okay, Be'ez Hashem to continue when? Friday after Shavuos. Okay, we'll send you a reminder. All right, have a wonderful day, everybody. A good day of Yom Tov, Kabbalah Satayda, B'simcha, B'pnimiyas Teira Chadash, Be'iti Teitzei. Should be Zoichet to the Gula Shlema, and hearing the Rebbe saying Chassidus, Teira Chadash, Be'iti Teitzei.